Everybody. Well, big day. Big day. Question period today. And the Liberals were grilled. And where was Justin Trudeau? Where do you think he was? 3 guesses and the first 2 don't count. It was a personal day. Of course, it's a Monday. It was a personal day. You don't work Mondays, do you? Monday. Forget it. Boss isn't in, right? I guess his handler, Gerald, was busy. So JT took the day off. Right? But in question period, some business was getting done. Michelle Rempel. Michelle Rempel does an excellent video. My only criticism of this video is she has to get a better microphone, because sharing her videos is difficult for me because her voice is very quiet and I'm very loud because you guys yelled at me for months to get a better microphone, and I did. So Michelle, get a better microphone. But other than that, I quite like the content of her video. I'm going to let her talk, so I apologize. Turn up the volume. It's not in double speed today, so... But this is the most important part, and watch this whole video. The link is in the description. This is becoming an issue, thankfully. And she says that they have some parliamentary tricks up their sleeve to make sure this doesn't happen. I hope that's true. I hope there are some things that they can do, they being the Conservative Party, the official opposition. I hope that they're right. Anyway, take it away, Michelle, and we've got a lot more to get to tonight, so...
Because I've written this out exactly what this means. In this, Justin Trudeau's government admits that non-binding agreements like the Global Compact on migration can in fact become customary international law and inform the interpretation of domestic law or Canadian law. This means that Canadian judges will be able to cite the compacts in their decisions. And we see this in decisions like Baker versus Canada, 1999, versus...
Okay, and she cites a whole bunch of cases. I pulled one up just to see, and yeah, the United Nations is cited in this decision, and this is Baker versus Canada. Judgment of the Supreme Court of Canada, Baker versus Canada. And it's interesting. So not only is Michelle giving us a primer that the non-binding, because that's what you're going to be hearing from the press and from people who just don't want to bother looking into this further than they have to, is it's non-binding. Don't worry about it. We don't actually have to abide by that agreement we're going to sign with the UN in 8 days, on the 10th of December in Marrakesh. We don't have to abide by that. Why are you getting upset, Mr. Conservative? Well, we're getting upset because, in fact, they can become customary international law and inform the interpretation of domestic law. So if we sign this and then somebody decides to come to Canada and we say, no, we don't want you here, they say, yeah, but you said that everybody's welcome here and everybody has a right for citizenship and all sorts of other stuff. So we are fundamentally changing our immigration system to accommodate non-citizens and illegals getting a priority seating just by virtue of the fact that they can get here first. They cross over illegally, and boom, they have to have a hotel room in Toronto. Magic. So I'm glad that Michelle Rempel is holding these people to task. Here's today in question period. We're going to watch the whole part about the Global Compact on migration. Just before this, if you're paying attention to the Raj Gruel case of the CN Bridge property sale and then purchase and Brampton East, I guess, is his riding. They absolutely grill them for about 5 minutes here on that, and it's quite funny to watch. But we're going to stay focused on the Global Compact on migration because, man, this is an absolute emergency for Canada. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not overstating this. This is a turning point in our country's history, and we're watching it go by. And anybody who realizes how important this is, pay attention, because we're one of a very few countrywide who understand what we're looking at, what we're witnessing. The decisions that are playing out now are going to affect us for 15, 20, 50 years and further. And we have to make the decision. And right now, these people are making the decision. Actually, right now, Justin Trudeau is letting the UN make the decision. So interesting. Actually, right now, Justin Trudeau's on a personal day doing who knows what, while his handlers are panicking somewhere in D.C., I think I heard. Panic in D.C.? Anyway, carrying on. here is the Global Compact on Migration question and answers from the CPC in question period on December 3rd, 2018.
Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, it's here that we should tell the truth, talk, straight talk. According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the Liberal government is going to spend $1.1 billion to manage the illegal immigration crisis at our border, not to mention the hundreds of millions it owes Quebec. The crisis is the direct result of the Prime Minister's January 2017 tweet encouraging illegal immigration. What is the Prime Minister waiting for? When is the safe third country loophole going to be dealt with? The Honourable Minister of Government Affairs. Mr. Speaker, my colleague knows that the government is working hard with our security services and the government of Quebec to take care of the situation of refugee claimants. We know that the number is going down, and my colleague knows that we have responsibilities in international law. Canada intends to meet those commitments and ensure that Canadians are still safe. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable.
Those responsibilities in international law are exactly what Michelle Rempel was just talking about. If we sign a non-binding compact, that is still a responsibility within international law. That's still a responsibility within the international framework of that law. So he basically said, yeah, we're still going to do this, while trying to accuse the Conservatives of doing something bad. And so you're going to hear that language a lot. It's confusing on purpose. Okay, back to the question period.
Well, what this government is going to do is erase Canada's borders. The Border Service recently admitted that they'd only intercepted 3% of dangerous goods entering Canada. Then the bill will be $1 billion for Canadians. When is the minister going to focus on our borders instead of further erasing them by signing this UN Global Compact on migration? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, despite the Conservative rhetoric about refugee claimants, we should point out that about 40% of people crossing the Canadian border are children. The Conservative penny-wise, pound-foolish approach was to drastically cut Border Services Agency, and they should be ashamed asking us this kind of question with their record.
Rose Hill.
And I think it's funny. I'm sorry, I'm just going to comment through the questions. I think it's funny that they're not answering the question purposely. They're attacking the Conservatives for their, quote, bad record, right? They're dodging the question. They're not engaging on the actual meat of it, when or what's going on with safe third country. Because up until a few days before we signed the Global Compact on Migration, effectively opening our borders to whoever the UN wants to send us, up until that point, it's been, we're trying to close this loophole, and this refugee, migrant, illegal, irregular border crosser, and it is, I'll just be clear, because all of these terms are conflated to try and mean the same thing, but they don't mean the same thing. So what I'm talking about are the illegal entrants to our country, and those people that don't qualify to be here, right? And he knows this, and that that swell of people was supposed to stop. But now it's becoming clear that the Liberals' plan is to erase our border, is to open it up plainly for anybody who wants to come here, anybody at all. Unbelievable. There are many countries across the EU and across the world. I maintain a list on my website of who's in and who's out. And Canada is enthusiastically in. Justin Trudeau reaffirmed it. This is the Liberal caucus. The caucus is the people who make up all of the people in the seats here, right? Reaffirming that they will vote and support Justin Trudeau signing this compact. Call your MPs. I've called my Liberal MP. I'm going to call him again this week. I'm going to call Doug Ford too. I should have called him today. I was busy. Sorry. I will get to it tomorrow. Back to the question period.
Speaker, there's a problem with the Liberals giving Canadians false assurances that the UN Global Compact for Migration is non-binding. non-binding agreements can become customary international law and inform interpretation of domestic law. This means Canadian judges can cite this declaration in their decisions. After spending $1.1 billion on illegal border crossers, will the Prime Minister reverse his policy of border erasure and refuse to sign the UN Global Compact on migration?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the fact that the Global Compact on Migration is an example of Canadian leadership abroad. Most of the document is based on best practices from Canada. It is about the orderly management of migration. It is about recognizing Canada's success on integration and settlement. Only a conservative with a broken immigration record would find a problem with us sharing our best practices with the world. When it comes to making sure that we export the privately sponsored refugee program or our success with economic immigration, we will sign the agreement.
The honourable member for Calgary.
Oh, Mr. Hussen. So he was trying to say that we're sending our best practices abroad. But if you think back to just this past summer, this is the National Post reporting, and the date was August 24th. National Post reports, quote, Canada's backlogged asylum system is, quote, not sustainable, Immigration Minister says in leaked letter. The language is unusually strong for Ahmed Hussen, who speaks often about Canada's, quote, strict and efficient immigration and border control system. The number of people seeking asylum in Canada is rising, quote, far beyond what the existing system can handle, according to a recent letter from Immigration Minister Ahmed Hussen obtained by the National Post. Quote, without changes to improve efficiency and productivity of the asylum process, wait times and backlogs will only continue to grow, Hussen writes in the August 14th letter, addressed to the Canadian Bar Association. Quote, this situation is not sustainable, nor is it fair to the people who need Canada's protection. Note, he's saying that he wants to change the system because it's not bringing in enough people fast enough, because they need Canada's protection. We got to bring them here faster. That is what he's postulating. And I disagree with him. I think that the immigration system is broken for a different reason. I think that we're bringing far too many people in, and, the Global Compact on Migration, far too many people illegally, and we need to have a strong and vigorous debate about immigration and the future of this country, period. See my other video if you're wondering what I'm talking about. Back to this article. Sergio Caras, and I'm sorry if I've slaughtered your name, Mr. Caras, an immigration lawyer and analyst, calls Hussen's letter, quote, an admission of failure by the Liberal government, and said that the existing system wasn't designed to accommodate the current volume of asylum claims. And quote, I honestly do not understand how it is the federal government can look the people of Canada in the eye and say that this system works, he said, because the system has collapsed. Last year, Canada saw a dramatic uptick in the asylum seekers entering the country between official border crossings, particularly in rural Quebec. More than 20,000 irregular asylum seekers, illegal border crossers, entered Canada last year, and more than 12,000 have in 2018. Through the rate of new arrivals has slowed considerably since its peak last summer. So this MP's statement of, people know that the number has gone down and slowed down, and all of these other platitudes they're trying to just distract us with aren't working. And I hope that they realize, I hope that the Liberals are watching their numbers tank in real time. Like, look at these people. Ooh, Bill Blair, looking very confused there, Mr. Blair. And Mr. Hussen. Anyway, so we're going to carry on and listen because we have a couple more minutes, or a minute or two, to listen to them reaffirm their commitment to signing this disastrous pact.
Nose Hill.
Spending $1.1 billion on people who illegally enter the country from the safe spaces of New York should be a best practice that Canada does not export anywhere. Mr. Speaker, the idea that Canada's immigration policy can be informed or controlled by something outside of our nation should be a grave concern, and given the Prime Minister's demonstrated inability and unwillingness to secure our borders. Will the Prime Minister today reverse his border erasing policy and withdraw Canada from the UN Global Compact?
Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Our record speaks for itself. Faster processing of spousal sponsorships, reuniting more families than ever before, making sure that we invite people to become Canadian citizens when they've contributed so much to this country. What is despicable is the record of that party, cutting refugee health care, putting obstacles against people who wish to become Canadian citizens, bragging about Yazidis when they only had 3 Yazidis in Canada. We have the record to prove, Mr. Speaker. Let them have the talking points.
Honourable member for Edmonton.
So, I don't exactly know what Mr. Hussen is talking about with regards to the Yazidis thing. I thought that was a really strange line of attack to take to Ms. Rempel, who's a very outspoken advocate for Yazidis. So it's a very, very strange line and really odd within the context of this. It's like virtue signaling at the highest level. Like I care about a more worse off population than you do. Is that what you were trying to say, Mr. Hussen? I'm not sure. Like, I honestly have no idea what the kind of point you were trying to make there. The rest of it, however, was a full-throated, a full-throated. I can't think of the word, and it's incredible that I can't think of the word. Endorsement of the system that you've set up, and the system that you've set up is disastrous, is by your own words disastrous and unsustainable. I don't understand how you can stand at the House floor and say that we're exporting these practices to help better the world when it is literally bankrupting Canada. In you've spent $1.1 billion federally, and that doesn't include the housing crisis and the shelters in Toronto that have been accessed, and in Montreal and Quebec, and all of the provincial and municipal funds that have gone into this that are not counted in that $1.1 billion valuation. It's dishonest to say that this system is working. It's not. It's broken. It's very clearly broken. And people in Canada shouldn't be lied to by their government, and that's exactly what's happening. And in addition to lying on the House floor, they're not answering questions, and they're attacking the Conservatives to distract from their own failures. I'll finish with saying I like Michelle Rempel's questions. I like the CPC's questions here. Welcome to the fight, guys. Thank you for realizing that this is a really big deal. Thank you for making sure that other people see it too. And Michelle Rempel, I think, deserves some thanks for posting her video as well. The whole video is worthwhile, and you should go check it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great evening.